Tim Taylor has always been an underdog, inside the ring and out, and his fight began very early in life.
When I was 2 years old, I was playing in my uncle's driveway and some guy threw a rock, hit me in my right eye, and I'm legally blind in my right eye. My mom had a stroke, and she ended up being paralyzed halfway, half her body was paralyzed. And I saw that woman go through so much pain and suffering, it boggles my mind.
The sudden loss of mobility and the daily struggle to raise her family took its toll, and the bitterness and anger began to build inside of her.
Oh, I knew not to cross her because I knew if I did something wrong, boy, I would get it. And we were walking on pins and needles, me and my brother, who was 5 years older than me. I hate to say it, we hated her. And that kind of toughened me up inside.
Tim's heart grew hard towards her and eventually towards others in his life, and he needed an outlet for his anger.
When the boxing club come into town, then that's when I started to learn how to box.
Tim took to the sport quickly and felt like he had found a new home inside the ring.
It got me away from home, and I was able to take all my frustrations and everything else out on a heavy bag. I just enjoyed boxing like it was built right inside me. I'd get up in the mornings and I'd get on a good diet and I'd go to the gym and train, and I was just an animal. That's it. I was an animal.
With all of his talent, drive, and determination, he had visions of turning pro. But there was one thing standing in his way: his disability. Tim's blindness prohibited him from following his dreams, and that only fueled his anger.
I boxed 3 guys in the Ontario Championship in '72. I knocked all 3 guys out, but the last guy I hit, I hurt my hand, okay? Almost broke it. And I fought a week later with one hand. I just didn't have the parts to go very far. I lost, and my life was really upside down.
The painful wounds from the loss were much deeper under the surface, and Tim medicated himself with drugs and alcohol until that cycle slowly spiraled out of control.
And so I got into drinking and toking up more and more. And then I put on a boxing match, and it ended up starting a lot of trouble with the local boxing club, and they ended up throwing me out. And when they threw me out, I went crazy. I remember I went home, my wife and mother-in-law was there, and I went berserk. I grabbed a broom and started smashing everything in sight. Busted the broom, busted the kitchen table, grabbed the refrigerator, threw it on the floor. Then I got on the phone, I started making some threatening phone calls, and then I took off.
Tim was kicked out of boxing and felt lost. And although he was newly married, his world seemed like it had turned upside down. He left his new wife and hit the open road, hitchhiking with no place to go.
And while I was on the 401 hitchhiking, that's when these 2 elderly people from Maumee, Ohio, their names were Al and Phyllis Moore, they must have been in their 70s. They picked me up, and the guy said to me, he says, "Young man, we don't pick up hitchhikers, but the Spirit of God really impressed in our hearts to pick you up." And so I stayed with them people for a couple hours, and they left me with a little tract, 4 spiritual laws. When I got out of the car, I felt the presence of God. I felt the presence of God because he prayed for me. And I asked Jesus Christ to come in my heart, problems and all. I was a sinner, and I knew it, and I knew I couldn't save myself.
Tim immediately felt God rip the desire for marijuana and booze from him. For so long, they were his crutch, his way of escaping the pain. And suddenly, he was free. Tim headed home to his wife and to rebuild his life. All Tim needed from God was an open door, and God provided.
3 churches got together and they bought an old YMCA. And all 3 pastors asked if I'd like to set up shop down here and start a boxing club. And I said, sure, why not? And I've been here for 17 years.
Today, Tim not only gets to share his love of boxing with young men and women in Sarnia, Ontario, but he gets to share the love of Jesus with them as well. And that is making the biggest impact of all.
They're coming here to learn how to fight, but inadvertently and shown them how to fight the good fight of faith.